Hello, everyone. Welcome to or back to the Ntroversial Cinema podcast. My name is Cosette.
I'm Liz.
And today we are going to be talking about a film that I'd say the horror and disturbing movie fan community club, whatever you want to call yourself, they tend to, it pops up a lot in the conversation, and a lot of people like it. And it is Martyrs from 2008, the French version, not the American one. I would one day like to have a little segment on comparing a lot of originals to American remakes.
Yeah, I will say I have seen the American version of Martyrs, so whenever we get into our thoughts on the movie, I'll bring up a few notes that I have about the two, but it definitely won't be an in-depth comparison.
Yeah.
So Martyrs is about two friends, really. It's kind of the American version is definitely the power of friendship. The French, not so much, but we get introduced to Lucy after she is escaping from being held captive, and it's assumed at that point that she has been tortured as she's being held captive.
As a child, I would like to say that.
Yes, as a child. And she ends up in an orphanage where she meets Anna. Her good Judy Anna. And the police are investigating who took Lucy, and they're kind of questioning Anna of do you believe what happened to her? What all can you tell us? Anna and Lucy still continue to develop their friendship, and they continue to be really close into adulthood.
Throughout the movie, it is very lightly alluded to, which, you kind of maybe think about it because she's in an orphanage anyway. But Lucy's trauma and, her past are very much the focal point, while Anna, obviously she has something going on, and it's more subtext going on. So I kind of thought that was interesting, but basically you don't know.
If you want to see the film, this is just the non-spoiler summarized version. So
Right.
To say that Lucy is traumatized by her past is definitely an understatement. From childhood to adulthood, she's been plagued with horrible visions of this woman who regularly harms her, but she is out for revenge. Because of course she is. She was wronged as a child. Nothing has happened since then. The police didn't find them. So she finds the family who tortured her all of those years ago, and upon entering their home, she slaughters the entire family. This should be the end of Lucy's torment, but things only get so much worse from here. Anna finds where Lucy is and goes to her. Everything Anna does to try and help her friend backfires on her as well. So she finds herself in the exact position that Lucy was years ago. However, Anna is nowhere near as lucky, or maybe she is, depending on how you view the film.
Right. I'd like to say the first 20 minutes of this movie,
Wild.
fucking wild and really awesome, actually. I remember when we started watching it and the first 20, 30 minutes went by, we were like, wait, is that it? Was this a short film?
And then we paused it. Well, no, because honestly, enough happens in the movie that it felt like a whole hour and a half. And then we paused it and we were like, oh, we're not even halfway through this bitch.
From what I had heard about the movie, I thought it was just, it didn't go how I thought this movie was going to go. That's all. If we're still in non-spoiler part, I was thrown off after the first 20, 30 minutes.
It did its nosedive really well, I will say. The descent into madness was just not totally unexpected, but very much we're in it now.
Yeah.
But okay, let's go ahead and get into that kind of talk about it.
Yeah. So first part of the movie, basically you're introduced to the setup, right? So Lucy's escaping from her horrible situation and gets to the orphanage. The police are trying to find out what the fuck happened, who are the people that did that. You flash forward many years.
I think 8 or 10, I want to say.
Yeah, it's 8 or 10 years.
They're adults at this point.
Right. Lucy has managed to track down the family. And this was the part I really liked, because the family is introduced as, I won't say typical American family, because obviously this is not set in America, but it's your typical family, but almost in a way that's still weird, because the father's in the kitchen, like cooking for the kids and shit, and the mom's outside, like working and doing like laborious things.
Yeah, I think she was working on
a pipe.
Yes,
or something.
some plumbing, because I guess they were having issues, and she finds a rodent got stuck in it.
Yeah, and so it's used to set up that this family is weird and something is off. They're about to sit down and eat when their doorbell rings. The father opens the door, yeah. And it's Lucy with a fucking shotgun.
It just blasts his ass.
And it just blasts his ass, blasts the whole family away just
even
to make
the kids.
Even the kids, just to make the long story short. And she don't feel bad about it. And I'm just sitting there,
she said,
like,
did you know what they do? You did? Unfortunate for you.
Did they even answer the question?
She didn't, but in the French film, it's implied, I think, that at least the son knew.
Yeah,
the son is about to go to college at this time. I think he's like 17.
Yeah, I think they talk about how he's getting ready to like go off to school somewhere. She basically calls Anna, who's at a certain location away. He's like, I did it. Like I killed him. I don't remember if she says like, hey, like come help me clean up or something, but something draws Anna to the house. Like Lucy gets Anna to come to the house.
Anna goes to the house, one, because, she wants to console Lucy. And two, Anna's kind of pissed that, Lucy went there by herself.
Yeah.
Because she understands how Lucy feels and how upset she gets. She doesn't actually know, I don't think, that they were dead at this point, because Lucy just said, like, I found them. It's them.
Yeah.
And so Anna's like, Lucy, you're a fucking idiot. Where's your address? Tell me where you are immediately.
Yeah.
Like, I need to investigate.
Correct.
So Anna does make it to the house, and she finds the entire family dead. There's blood everywhere. Every fucking where, as you would imagine with a shotgun. And she's like, why did you do this? Are you sure that it's them? Like, are you absolutely positive? And so
yeah, that's what I was like.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, she kind of committed to the bit. I mean,
Anna helps Lucy drag the bodies into a bathroom as they're just trying to
clean up.
Yeah, and figure out what the next steps are. Bye, Nova.
Bye.
Your animals distract me so often where I'm just like, wait a minute, hold on, what's going on? So, yes, they clean up the house and they just are trying to get their bearings, because Anna is thinking, like, do we need to leave? Do we need to call the police? Like, we can't get caught,
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, the events for me get a little hazy, because it's just like, as shit starts ramping up, and this is the part of the movie where you're like, oh shit, there's more to go. All right.
Yeah, this is when we get fully introduced into the harrowing visions of this bitch.
Yeah. So Lucy has this woman that is attacking her, and it's just tormenting her the entire time that they're trying to get the house cleaned up. I don't even know what the fuck Lucy is trying to do. Like, there was so much time. I'm not trying to get too much into my thoughts, but there was just so much time spent in this house where I'm like, leave. like just leave. You don't need to do all of this shit in this house. Like, you just annihilated a whole family. Leave. But anyway, they're in the house. Lucy is having a trippy ass time with this woman attacking her.
In the beginning of this movie, while Lucy's at the orphanage, she has an episode where this creature, this woman, is attacking her. And
she looked fucked up.
Oh, she is so fucked up, even in the house. And it's just been this reoccurring thing where this woman seems like she's following her from the unfinished business of her past. Well, in this house, we discover That's a hallucination.
Yep.
She does not exist. And I will fully admit, I totally believe that was an actual woman just following her around. I did not know from the jump that it was like most likely a hallucination. I was very well thrown off by that.
Well, and the only thing that really gives you the clue is that Anna's also in the house the entire time and she never encounters this woman.
She's so unbothered too.
Yeah. And you're like, this is fucking weird. Okay. And then it's revealed that's a hallucination. And it eventually, because it's a manifestation of Lucy's guilt from when she was a child, because when she was escaping, I'm pretty sure it's explained in the movie at this point.
Yeah.
That when she was escaping from her torturous captors, you were so antisocial. That there was another woman in the house. And a grown woman, okay? So not like another kid, but a grown woman who was also being tortured. And Lucy, as a child, had to decide in the moment whether she was going to try to save the woman or just get out by herself. In my opinion, she chose right and chose to get out by herself.
Yeah.
But this obvious guilt has haunted her. And it's pretty set up early on in the film because there's a moment when she goes to the orphanage that she's haunted. Anyway, this guilt and this hallucination drives Lucy to take her own life and
to attempt to.
Yeah.
one of the attempts, because the other thing with this hallucination, from what Lucy is seeing, this woman is physically harming her. She's like scratching her. She's hitting her with things. But in reality, it's Lucy inflicting harm on herself in whatever variation that particularly happens. You know, slamming your head in the wall, using your nails
cutting
or objects.
Her arms.
Mm-hmm. And so it's very concerning things, but that's also why, like, it made no sense to me why Anna was so unbothered. So I'm just like, there's this crazy person on the loose. But yeah, Lucy.
Also, your friend's getting fucked up.
Yeah. Like, Lucy, I hate to say it this way, but Lucy's really bad at killing herself.
It took her like 3 fucking tries to kill herself. And I'm like, ma'am.
The
more
Earth
efficient.
wants you to be here. If not, like,
be more efficient is all I'm trying to say. But eventually she ends up succeeding and taking her own life by cutting her throat open. And Anna is just traumatized by that because they have a thing.
They do.
There's like a little, I'm not even going to call it a subplot because it's not even a plot, but it's just like, it's alluded.
A moment where Anna, they're in the bathroom where all of the dead bodies are. And Anna is having a hard time, like, coming to grips with the smell. And Lucy is just like, no, I know that smell. I had to live with that smell every single day. And eventually, like, a beat happens. And Anna, in feeling sympathy for Lucy, is like, this is a perfect time to make out.
Yeah. And Lucy's like,
why?
Yeah, she's like, why? And I also want to go back real quick. There was a moment in the bathroom where they put all the dead bodies where the mom actually was still alive. I think this is really, like, important because it's alluded that Anna doesn't necessarily buy into that this is the family that harmed her, right? And sometimes I wonder if Anna even believes that Lucy was tortured in the way that she says, right? Because Anna tries to help this woman, and I'm all for, like, empathy, but let's say that is the person that did, like, horrifically torture your friend / lover thing.
Yeah, potential.
And, like, she tries to help her. Yeah, and, like, it was such a moment of obviously trying to see into Anna and who she is as a person, which is important later.
Perception of Anna that she is inherently a good person.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to see anybody suffering. She wants to help people. And so she's like, okay, I'll help you. You're still alive. I'll try to get you out of the house. Even though, girl, she was torturing your friend. Why are you helping her?
Yeah.
Like, at that point, I'm so sorry, but that's breaking the best friend code.
Yeah. And impossible girlfriend code. It was just very like, okay. And anyway, Lucy discovers she's still alive. She finishes her off. Lucy ends up killing herself. And this is where this movie gets whack as fuck for me.
Yeah, because Anna, once again, could have just left the fucking house. She could have just fucking left. But no, I think she stays there overnight with her, friend. Dead.
Just dead. Also, she put her on the couch so her dead corpse is like just laying
bleeding out. Yep. And at this point, she had already moved all of the dead bodies to the hole outside that had been being dug for the mom to access the plumbing. So there's just death surrounding her. She wakes up in the morning. She calls her mom. It's not a productive conversation. She decides to stay in the house. Why? Don't know. Oh, she's cleaning. She's cleaning more, which I'm like, why? Okay, on one level, yeah, I mean, DNA, sure. But when Lucy went in there to shoot these people, one, she was in full gear head to toe. Maybe at best she would have left a hair sample. Well, and two, at this point, it's just a murder-suicide.
Yeah.
Like, she has an out. She could have just fucking left. But she doesn't. Setup. And in the process of her cleaning, she finds this little secret hatch that leads into a very sterile metal not even cylindrical, girl. No, it's a square.
It's a square.
And she finds
a torture chamber. And honestly, this was probably my favorite part of the movie, which might say something a lot about me, but
it's the criminologist.
Yeah,
you
right.
Can't help it.
We'll get to personal thoughts a little bit, but so she ends up finding this hatch that leads down into basically a whole subfloor of this house. Oh my God, the set. I just couldn't. I loved it. I was like, okay, this is great. So she's walking down the hallway, and the hallway wall has these pictures of it, and it's basically these women in states of
dying.
I think one was being tarred and feathered, and there's a few religious things thrown in there, as well as famous women in history. I think there was
Joan of Arc. I
think. Joan of Arc was one of them, and I was like, okay. And so she continues on, and she finds a room. I can't remember if it was open or she opened the room.
Someone started calling out to her.
Finds a room. She opens the door, and this is so wild. Like, it's really...
This is the fucking turning point of the movie.
The shit ramped up.
She finds this poor, malnourished, beat the fuck up lady with like metal headgear on her and some kind of iteration of a chastity belt. It's not a chastity belt, but it's essentially like
it's a metal piece of underwear. And keep in mind, it's bolted into her skin. She's chained to the walls. And so Anna, being, of course, the wonderful person she is.
So helpful.
So helpful. Good for you, girl. Gold star. Decides to help this woman and get her out. Which, if the situation we described wasn't enough, this woman is skinny as fuck. She looks pale as hell. Scratches all over her damn body. I mean...
She's not thriving.
She's not thriving. And so Anna takes her upstairs to put her in the bath.
You know, with all of these open wounds on her skin.
It's not even the problem. You find this bitch and you don't take her to the hospital?
You don't call the police at this point? Like, she gets a fucking flathead screwdriver and starts unbolting the metal headgear from this woman. It is bolted into her fucking skull, and it starts bleeding like when she's taking it off.
Profusely, right? Profusely. And I'm like, why would you not let it? One, a medical professional should be doing that. Two, what favor do you think you're doing this bitch? Okay, so now we can see her like deformed face. Yay for her. And of course, this woman's freaking out because she doesn't, I mean, she's been tortured for God knows how many years. The woman freaks the fuck out because it hurts, for one. Because she has so many open wounds. This part of the movie is just mystifying. Like, I enjoyed it, but it's also so mystifying to me.
Needless to say, this woman unfortunately does not last very long because truly, she is so mentally and physically anguished that when your senses have been deprived for so long, you can't really adapt back into a normal society. And so she definitely slams her head into a wall, and I don't remember if that's
no, that's not what kills her, but she does start slamming her head into a wall because I called them like the team. I didn't even know what else. Like the squad. The ops. Yeah. Like come into the house and shoot the damn woman, which at this point, good for her, mercy kill, and take Anna hostage and take her down to the subfloor basement thing.
Which she could have left at any time prior to this, but congratulations, bestie, you're in it now. So we get introduced to, her name is Mademoiselle, right? We get introduced to the HBIC, head bitch in charge, and she kind of gives Anna this lowdown, their search for enlightenment. And apparently the only way that they have been able to achieve this is capturing women in various states of dying, but still being alive.
They did do men at one point too.
Oh, they did?
So they talked about basically how they tried on many people in many different life stages. And the point of the conversation was to say, but women in their late teens to young 20s are more likely to
achieve enlightenment.
Yeah, like basically achieve the enlightenment. There were certain terms that they used that there was their own.
Like they can see through the veil of death into what comes after.
Right. And just start showing her more pictures of people being martyred, if that's what you want to call it. They just have like this little book. I'm like, it's like an employee orientation.
What a wild take on a binder full of women, truly.
Yeah, right. Like, this could have gone anywhere and you went that way. Okay. It's comprehensive that Anna has now been taken hostage. So they take her down to another level, I believe. They take her down and it's just like this dark, grimy little room, and they strip her pants, keep her underwear on though, so she's not naked, and strap her down to a chair that basically has
a potty hole.
Nothing else. That's where she is basically for a lot of the time. They eventually cut her hair off because they don't put the helmet or anything on Anna.
I think poor helmet girl was just like this. They're trying all of these different ways to psychologically break people down, and she just really got the unlucky hand of the draw.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, she wasn't a successful experiment. So they're like, well, let's just do other shit to her. Why not? What proceeds from there is that every day, and you don't really get a sense of time, right? Because you're supposed to be following Anna. You don't know what time it is. You don't know what day it is, how long you've been down there. What they'll do is every day they'll feed her this nasty ass gruel by shoving it in her mouth and make her swallow it.
If she spits it out, she gets smacked immediately and harshly across the face every single fucking time.
Yep. And it's the same gruel that is actually shown to be fed to Lucy as a child. So it's basically telling you same fucking people. They proceed to have this giant burly ass man also beat the shit out of her every day.
I will say I was very thankful for the fact that nothing sexual in this movie happened.
Right.
Like, small mercy. We didn't have to worry about that layer of brutality. So if you were concerned about that, you can rest assured knowing that at least that doesn't happen in this movie.
Right. And kind of like the whole time I was watching, I was like, all right, like, when's the grape? When's it going to happen? Because it's bound to happen, right? Woman is captured. She's in a vulnerable position. It doesn't. So I was very relieved for that. She eventually gets upgraded to a mattress instead of the chair, I guess, after she's been there for so long, and she progresses through the stages. But same shit where she's force fed. She gets the shit beat out of her every single day by this man.
It's this man and the woman who comes in and gives her food occasionally too. And one day, this woman just decides that she's gonna not be a gigantic cunt to Anna. She's saying that, don't worry, it's almost over. And she actually shows her the tiniest amount of affection.
Like human decency here. The woman is like, just hold on, Anna. You're almost there. Like, you're almost done. And you're just like,
oh, what the fuck do you mean I'm almost done?
The fuck you mean? Right. Like, okay. And so eventually she is,
yeah.
This is just where it's just wild. It's just like, oh, okay. Would not have clocked that.
She gets taken with this doctor looking person. She gets strapped down face down into this contraption. Her arms are like splayed out very
she's like the anatomical man.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. This doctor man starts cutting into her skin, and that's all that we see for a little bit.
Actually, you don't even see it. It's zoomed in on her face, and you just hear these snipping noises. And in that moment, you're like, holy fuck, are those scissors?
She gets filleted, for lack of a better term.
Like, around her direct face.
We couldn't get rid of the moneymaker.
And the ears?
The ears fucked me up. I
was like, why?
I hated the entire idea of somebody not having skin is awful. But to take someone's ears and all you can see is the ear canal. Like, I know that that's the littlest of concern in that moment.
I was like, bro, you cut off her ears too?
She Vincent Van Gogh at this point.
And keep in mind, like, they're not doing this with sedation or pain numbing. Like, it's literally just her going through it because, in theory, according to the movie, she's been so desensitized to it that she's just like,
in a state of acceptance.
She's groaning, right? She's like making little noises because it does hurt, but like, bitch, I'd be screaming. Like, ain't no way. She is put in a wheelchair, and it just makes me cringe because like you are touching everything without your skin, which is what keeps infections out from you. And I'm just like,
they wheel her to this like observation deck essentially, and she's just put in, some water to keep the moisture in her not skin.
So first she's put on like a crucifix. And this is where the camera does that moment where it's alluding to she's been enlightened. And so everyone starts freaking out. And they're like, it happened. She did it.
She's made contact.
Yeah, she's made contact with whatever. And so this is when it goes to a scene where all the old white people, I swear to God, are coming.
Old rich white people
are coming into the house. The mademoiselle who was there earlier in the movie has arrived to talk to Anna, and her little, I'll call it, I don't think he was a butler. Her confidant, her right-hand man, her assistant was there, and he's talking to the crowd of old white people. And he's like, we're getting the message. Mademoiselle is back there getting the message. Everyone wait and we will deliver it.
Because she's still in this state of enlightenment. She still can see past that veil. And Mademoiselle goes up to her and is like, tell me what you see. Like, describe what you can see. And Lucy tells her, we don't get to hear it, of course. Nope. The audience don't get to hear a single fucking word. Mademoiselle goes to her group of rich confidants that have, from what I'm gathering, kind of come from all corners of the world for this momentous event of learning what lies beyond the earthly realm.
It gave me the same vibes, and we'll cover this movie later on down the road, but it gave me the same vibes as the rich elite people in Hostel that did their thing. If you've seen the movie or know anything about it, it was giving me that same vibe.
Mademoiselle is getting ready to address them. Her assistant is coming in, checking up on her, and
she's like taking her wig off.
She's taking her makeup off. She is getting primed and ready, baby face.
I love this part so much. It took me out in so many ways. But the guy knocks on the bathroom door, and he's like, hey man, you ready? Like, we gotta deliver this message. And she starts asking him questions like, do you believe? Why do you do this? And he's like, well, yeah, of course I believe, and I believe because I want to know like what lies beyond. I love this fucking moment so much. She pulls out a gun and sticks it in her. Well, first she says, well, keep wondering, and then sticks it in her mouth and shoots herself.
Nobody will know what her last words were, what she saw beyond. It's not meant to be known.
And it's not supposed to be funny.
No, but it truly is. Like, it's the biggest fuck you in the entire movie.
Like, talk about being so like, I perceived it as selfish to not share the message, but you know, it's obviously open-ended. Like, maybe she was sparing them from knowing what lies beyond.
That's
maybe
what
it's
I
shitty.
was thinking. Like,
or she was so excited to get there that she was like, yeah, I'm gonna go.
That was not a lady who was excited.
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean, it's supposed to be open-ended, and you're supposed to have different, you know, everyone's going to have a different opinion of how that came away. But it was honestly, like, in a way, I was like, that was kind of badass, not going to lie. She kind of ate with that one. But yeah, that's
where the movie ends.
As you can, I don't know what order this is going to come out, but we're having a lot more fun with this one than a Serbian film.
Oh God, yeah. Like,
I don't know if this one will come out for a Serbian film, but whatever order, you're going to hear the difference.
Martyrs is kind of why I like going into movies blind, because I don't have like a certain expectation of what I'm getting. Because before we watched this movie, you had told me that like people really, really like this movie and they revere it as like very impactful for them as individuals, and not to shit on if that's for you. I'm so happy for you that you found a piece of media that you really, really connect with on a deep level. But at the end of this movie, we were just like, what the fuck do you mean? She went through this for what? For what?
But we'll get there. Love it or hate it, I thought this was so damn fascinating. I wanted to know more about the director and some of the kind of the background. The 2008 Martyrs, the director is Pascal Laugier. It's probably Laugier, because it's French. I didn't take French, y'all. Okay, my name may be French, but I didn't take it. If you have not heard of them, there's not a lot on his personal life, but he was born in 1971 in France and was raised / is Catholic. Big fucking shocker there, I know, given the contents of this movie. However, one fun fact that I did manage to find was that in 2012, he was actually considered to direct a Hellraiser remake, but he had disagreements with Miramax, and therefore he left the project. Actually, that experience influenced him a lot going forward in further dealings in Hollywood in general, like especially American Hollywood. This is another director that's kind of unhappy with everything, it seems, because apparently he's not happy with like French, whatever they got going on over there, but he's also apparently not happy with fucking Hollywood. So in that same year, he was also approached by Jason Blum from Blumhouse to direct a second Sinister film, which I was like,
did he?
He didn't. He was approached for it.
Honestly, Sinister 2 probably would have been a lot better if he had directed
it.
I
was like, well, that might have been a choice. The problem is that Blumhouse by that point had already done the American remake of Martyrs, and Laugier didn't like it. So he was like, middle finger to you, I'm not doing that shit.
You come to me and insult me in my own house.
Yeah, literally, that's kind of what he did, which I'm like, you know, given what Blumhouse has been doing lately, that's on point. Why did he make the movie? There were some interviews that I managed to find. There was one on Eye for Film and then Electric Sheep magazine that did interviews with him. Obviously, the videos of him being in interviews I can't understand because they're in French. Or at least the only interviews I managed to find online were all French. I'm not saying he's never done an English one before. When he made Martyrs and was like coming up for the idea, he was at a very cynical time of his life. And he basically was like, the West is a very sick place. I get it. Totally. I see what you're saying. And Laugier, he basically describes the film not as a horror or a psychological thriller, but as a melodrama, which
wild take.
Yo movie, so I guess I can't disagree with you, but I will.
Wild.
It's a melodrama that basically has a take on suffering and what it means to suffer. And basically that led me to kind of have the question of, is it possible that his Catholic background influences this pondering? I would say so.
The Catholic guilt, you can just smell it from a mile away.
Catholic guilt and hatred of women. Sorry, if you're Catholic, my bae, the religion is not always kind.
No, more oftentimes not.
And I say that raised as a Southern Baptist, okay? None of it is. It's got some pretty hot takes, but he doesn't have a very expansive filmography. But another movie that you probably heard from him is Incident in a Ghostland, which I haven't watched, but I did watch a pretty in-depth review of Incident in a Ghostland. And he kind of does the same shit where his movie is centered around women and their suffering in other ways different from Martyrs. That movie is not as brutal as Martyrs from what I understand. It is much more, I think it was kind of made more for American audiences than French, because obviously this was during the new French extremity movement. Still hits a lot of kind of those same like notes and tones that he keeps in Martyrs as far as women
suffering.
Yeah, women and suffering, and there's also some like very other weird stuff that people have problems with, but you can go look that up yourself. Mr. Gigi has a review of Incident in a Ghostland, and he covers that pretty well. That leads us into, with that context of knowing Laugier and his deal a little bit more, that leads us into our thoughts on the movie.
This whole what is suffering and what does it mean to suffer? I get frustrated with this movie specifically because it feels like to me that this movie is saying suffering is good if it is for the greater purpose.
Yeah.
And that's a take I don't personally agree with, because not to be pedantic as well, but like Anna's not really like a martyr.
No.
Was she martyred? Yeah. But like
it's not the same as people volunteering.
Or like I had to look up the fucking actual definition for martyr because I was like, I need to make sure that I'm not just being a pedantic asshole.
Right.
I am, but I want to be a correct pedantic asshole. And literally, martyrs are people who are killed for their strong beliefs that they refuse to rebuke, or like, I mean, technically she is because she's a victim, that is another definition for martyr. So I guess you got me there. A martyr to the cause of freedom, or someone who sacrifices something of great value and especially life itself for the sake of a principle. Anna died for no such principle.
You should have no
outside
principle.
of being a dumbass and never leaving the house. I enjoyed watching the film, but the actual message and the takeaway from the movie, I really, really struggle to not necessarily agree. No, I struggle to agree with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think you explained it really well. And yeah, it just kind of goes back to like a lot of times martyrs kind of want to be there for their cause, right? Like that's kind of like the whole thing with Jesus.
Yeah, it's like if a gunman stepped in here right now and held a gun up to your head and said, "Do you believe?" Would you say yes, even though you knew you were going to die? Like, it's so much that. Like, that is a martyr. And that's also conditioning that you should avoid. If somebody is giving you that scenario, you need to run far away.
And it's just kind of skeevy, too, in setting up Anna to be like this really good person. And maybe that's why she was able to achieve martyrdom. But she's
not even a good person.
But she's not that great of a person, right? Like, and call it maybe just the more I'm in like the horror community and watch like more movies like this, my tolerance for stupid bitches has gone down. To be quite honest, like please write women better.
Well,
there's plenty
he is
of men,
Catholic,
right? I mean, there's plenty of stupid men written in movies too, but typically they get to live because they wise up, right?
Or they just happen to not die.
Yeah,
at that point.
Well, Cosette, what about the final girl? They are a minority. Talk to me about it. Anna is stupid bitch energy wrapped up in all one. I mean, I guess Lucy kind of was too, because really at the beginning after she killed the family, she should have left. Anna should never have had time to get to that fucking house. They should have all been like, I did it. We leaving, going to another country. Goodbye.
I was not really ever as upset with Lucy because I knew that like the mental capacities were not there. she, like, from what I remember, was like pacing back and forth up until Anna got back to the house.
Yeah, she was freaking out.
Yes, and rightfully so, because she thinks that she's at the end of whatever suffering that she's going to experience in this life because she finally ended it. But the body remembers, and her trauma does not treat her kindly. And she was never really going to be put in a situation where she could thrive at that point. So I don't know. Lucy isn't a stupid bitch. She just is a victim to her own life circumstances.
Yeah. I said that knowing that like Lucy gets more of a pass, but you know, like on the technicality, just fucking leave. But then like, okay. Then they stayed and cleaned up the house, which I was just like, what a choice. Like Anna is now in this moment to be the voice of reason, right? She could have been like, bitch, we leaving. It is time to go. I don't have time for yo crazy ass. Oh.
Yeah, but that's her boo thing. She's trying to like support her boo thing, even if she thinks she's fucking crazy.
And look, okay, psychology. Oftentimes, victims' flight or fight response is kind of fucked up. Like, especially when you've gone through a lot of trauma. And statistically, be victimized once, you're more likely to get victimized again. Like, there's also just a lot of psychology there that can kind of like explain it. But like after Lucy killed herself, there was no reason to be in that house.
Mm-hmm.
There was just no reason.
We, as an audience, don't really know anything about Anna. Like, we don't know her background. We don't know what her psychology is comprised of. And that, I will say, where I will give the American version of Martyrs its flowers, is you do see Anna and Lucy interact with each other a lot more as children. You know, we still really don't know that much about Anna per se, but we see their dynamic and their relationship really, really develop because we're being shown them like having fun together, talking about their hopes and dreams together. You know, we don't get that really in the French version. And so whenever we're supposed to attach ourselves to Anna and feel really bad for the things happening to her, I'm like, she did not take herself out of the situation.
Right.
Not that she actively did it to herself, because she didn't. She was still a victim.
You kind of get to the point where you're watching this in movie and you're like, why are you still here?
Yeah.
It was kind of
anticlimactic,
like kind of lazy writing. Like it was like, oh, like we need a reason for Anna to stay in this house to discover the basement. Bitch, speed that timeline up. Don't have her fall asleep overnight and wake up the next morning and find that shit. Speed that timeline up.
Mm-hmm. I wish they had explored the lore of this little death posse a little bit more, because it could have been so interesting. Like, obviously the ending is supposed to be ambiguous. You're supposed to interpret your own meaning of what Mademoiselle learned from Anna when she was enlightened. But not to sound like a dumb American, but like I would have liked a little bit, not even context as to the why, but just more information of like, obviously they've been doing this for a long, long time.
Right.
But I would have liked to have seen behind the scenes a little bit more.
Like even, and I know people kind of spit on exposition a little bit, but like there's a reason and a time and place for exposition. Like, again, give it the hostile treatment. There was literally like a little bit of an exposition, like conversation between two characters in Hostel that kind of give you like, yeah, we're a bunch of rich elites and we do this and we pay this much money to do this. And like it's not a lot because it still has the mystery of like who's running this thing? Like, how did this start? But it's enough to be like, all right, I understand the motivation. I understand what's going on here.
Because with Martyrs, obviously they, like, rich people probably fund all of this to happen, but money isn't the core of what they're doing. Like, nobody is, like, it's all in this, not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not altruism at all. It's for this goal of, but why do you even have the goal of wanting to know what lies beyond the earth. That's the point of having faith. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
any religious person will tell you that like that's where their faith comes from. Is
Right.
because they don't need to know. They don't need
Right.
proof
They have
of
faith.
what lies beyond. So I get so many conflicting messages from this movie. I just needed to pick
That's a big
one.
problem. And maybe you could look beyond, and this may be a stretch, right? But okay,
I mean,
we can
we've been
assume,
stretching pretty far.
right? We've been stretching, but I mean, you can assume, like, let's just assume that these people are obviously religious, right? They have their very deep beliefs, and ways that they want to do things, and whatever motivations they have between like needing to find out and how they find out, you know, it's maybe the message as well is these people, and bear with me here, have martyred themselves. These families are martyring themselves, their souls, to the greater good, because I mean they're committing crimes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like they've tortured children, women, men, like they're torturing people, which I mean any religious person would tell you that that's not good, which I mean I know religion can justify a lot of things and people have. Yep, I get it. The Crusades, I get it. This family, right?
Such a worthy cause.
Such a worthy cause for them. Maybe in turn felt that they were martyring themselves for their cause, right? Their souls, because probably they're going to end up damned because they've done some horrific shit, and it just goes up the chain to wherever. And again, that was a stretch, but
I think you're probably more correct than you're wrong, because if you take away worldly rewards for religious people essentially going into a villain arc for the greater good, that is probably the justification of I want to further my own goals that are good and godly, that I will use whatever means necessary to further this, you know, to fruition.
I'll martyr myself for everybody else so we can find out. Like I'll find out what lies beyond. And maybe that would help spread the message of like, hey, like I've proved that there's great shit beyond the grave and that God is real. You're welcome.
And then Mademoiselle was like, nope, go fuck yourself. Pew.
Right. And again, that's a very open-ended ending and the way you interpret it. Like even me and Liz kind of took different takeaways from that. And so however you watch this movie, hopefully you went and watched the movie and then came back if it sounded like something that would interest you, whatever your takeaway from that was. Because I guarantee you ain't no one going to come away the same. And to wrap up my thoughts on it, I didn't love it. I'm so sorry, everybody. I know it's such a, I mean, it's a movie that gets you talking. It's a movie that gets you thinking, but it was too much dumb bitch juice for me to keep the plot going. Yeah, it's kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah. I was intrigued by this movie enough to watch the American version, which I swear I watched like whenever it first came out, because it had, I cannot remember her name, but she played Spencer in Pretty Little Liars. And honestly, I wish the American version went harder, because I feel like she would be such a down bitch for that. Be like, you want to fillet me? You want to take away all of my skin? Sign me up. I played a crazy bitch on season 4 of Pretty Little Liars. Let's go. Martyrs is by no means a bad film.
No.
You know, it's clearly enjoyable. I have a lot of critiques, you know. It's a movie that I have no qualms with watching again, you know. It's, if you enjoyed the movie, I am so happy for you. It's definitely not my favorite.
You know, like a lot of people do enjoy this movie. I don't think I bought into it enough.
Yeah. Overall, what would
I rate this movie? It deserves more than like 5 out of 10, just because like it's not like a shitty movie, and even just 50% of that I feel like is a little low. I'd probably give it like a 6 or a 6.5.
I'm going to be a little more generous to how rating scales usually bend, but I would say using a 5 scale, I'd be like 3.75 out of 5. Because it's like, It is a good movie? Question mark. It's
With
very
some
well
questions.
made. It's very well made. I would say it's a cohesive story.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's enjoyable to watch. But the critiques I have knock it down from that, you know, legendary best movie ever kind of philosophy that a lot of people take away from having seen it.
Right. Definitely original. I mean, you're not going to see it anything like it again.
That was Martyrs, and I hope that you all enjoyed watching this episode or listening to it wherever you may be. Feel free to find us on social media. And yeah,
TikTok, Instagram, Tumblr, all the good stuff. Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
You'll find superstition a contagious thing. Some people let it get the better of them. I don't think you will.
No.